Well, good morning, everyone. Happy week 3 of servant leadership. I have so enjoyed getting to know you over the last 2 weeks. And this week, your assignment is you are going to be interviewing a respected servant leader. And as I said in week 1 and week 2, I wanted you to start being aware of leaders around you, leaders that you felt were effective and leaders that you felt were ineffective. And that could be in a school or a supermarket or institute, college institution, military, clergy. But I want you to choose someone, a real someone, a person that you highly respect as a servant leader and that you believe to be effective in their practice. And when you write up your interview, all the directions are there for you, very easy to follow. But I want you to also think about something that's not specifically written in the directions, but I want you to think about this. I want you to think about how this person makes you feel. How does this person make you feel? Because how you feel around a leader is very important to a company's success. Whether that's a public educational institution, whether that's a private educational institution, whether that's a business, international or national, it's how you feel, okay? That makes you want to stay with that company, believe in the shared vision, and believe in that leader. Now, Rosalind Torres in the TED Talk that you're going to be listening to this week, she says three great things that I wanted to touch on just very briefly. The first one is she says, great leaders are not head down. They see around corners, shaping their future, not just reacting to it. And I've already said this to you. The shortened version of that, when I speak to people that I'm training in leadership, is act, don't react. And it's not so easy. You have to take ego out of it. And as I've said before, much overused word trigger, but when you're triggered, you're reacting and you're not acting. So, an example of that is when the pandemic broadsided all of us in education. There were people that began reacting and scurrying and did not create the best online learning experience for all stakeholders because we just weren't prepared. And then instead of taking a step back and calming down and thinking, how can I best serve this population? Not only my students, not only my parents, but also my teachers. Many of the teachers were not tech savvy, were not comfortable with Zoom, were not comfortable with Blackboard, Canvas, Google Classroom, had not used it, were not sure how to code. There was a lot of coding going on and teaching people how to code and also teaching people how to protect themselves and protect their children when they were live in their homes or the children were live, learning in their homes. So um, we had a lot of trial and error in the beginning and leaders that made people feel more comfortable, respected, created a calmness, a trust, a loyalty, ended up with a better online experience than those that were feeling very anxious and not having effective leadership leading them. And as you know, many teachers went to other teachers that were more experienced in technology for help. So, we have to consider those things. How are we acting, not reacting? How are we looking around corners? We are right now teaching students for jobs that don't even exist. In 5 years, there's going to be this whole new set of jobs related to technology that we know nothing about at this time. So, how are we best serving? How are we looking around corners? What are we doing to look around the corners? And that leads to the second quote. She says, your capacity to develop relationships with people that are very different from you, and those differences can be biological, physical, functional, political, cultural, socioeconomic. And yet, despite all of these differences, they connect with you and trust you enough to cooperate with you. Great leaders understand having a more diverse network is a source of pattern identification at greater levels and a source of solutions because you have people thinking differently than you are. Um, as an artist, as a musician, I deal with that every day when you're in a band. And for my other musicians, and we have musicians in here, when you're working together, when you're collaborating with different musicians and you're coming from diverse backgrounds and perspectives, jazz, pop, rock, classic, um, If you're open, you come up with these amazing progressions and solutions that create some really fantastic music. And the same goes in education. If you surround yourself with people that think exactly like you, then you're not going to see the trouble when the trouble arises. Okay. So if you look at great superintendents, they surround themselves with people that have differing views, differing perspectives. They're listening to all of their stakeholders, their parents, their students, their teachers, their support staff, their custodial staff, their bus drivers. They're listening to everyone and they're putting the pieces together and they're looking for patterns within that big, broad, vast amount of knowledge that everyone brings. So you have to realize that this is a business. This is a business, and in public education and in private education, you're going to have differing personalities, and you have to find a way to call people in instead of calling them out so that you can come up with great ideas and good solutions. The last one is Dr. Brene Brown says this as well: great leaders dare to be different. And, this is where you have to dig deep, within yourself. You have to be willing to make your own leap of faith and be your own original. And, she talks about how when you could be doing the same thing for your entire life and doing it well, but never really going anywhere other than, doing this well, not advancing your company, not, taking away from your company, but just kind of chugging along. And, for me, I was an educator for 28.5 years, 28.5 years in public education, K through 12. And when I had this calling, I had this belief that I needed to do more. I needed to do more. I needed to be an agent of change. And when I made the leap of faith to leave, there were people. There were people that were like, "Oh, what are you doing? This is insane! You're point 0.5 away from 30 years." It was like that. And I had to find something in myself that said, "Make that leap of faith." And when I did make that leap of faith, all of a sudden everything opened up because I was willing to make a change from my routine. And within a week of me making the leap of faith and choosing to put high school teaching behind me, I had job after job after job offered to me um, in really interesting ways in education that I hadn't even thought of before. And then my doctoral work became looking at perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause in education and career longevity and burnout, and looking at going back to what Ms. Torres said again, my capacity to develop relationships with people that are very different from you, and those differences can be biological. And that was something I knew that I wanted to look at. It wasn't different from me, but it was a subgroup that was different from many and often overlooked. And I thought, what can I do to advance knowledge in that and hopefully, change something for the better in education? And so that's what I'm doing now. So remember, great leaders dare to be different. So think about these things as you are studying this week. And think about this when you are interviewing your respected servant leader that you believe to be an effective leader. Okay. I'm going to finish grading probably today, but I'll say Wednesday morning just to give myself a little bit of time. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.